In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to write an error in a text box and then how to recover from it. So right now I have a function that Right now I have a program that will read what's in the text box and compute it, and then can use the eval function to man. Right now I have a program that will accept numbers and mathematical formulas and take whatever value is entered in that text box and convert it to ounces. And it uses the eval function to determine what the value of the expression is that has been entered. One of the things that it does is if there's something incorrect, it puts a message up here and says this is a problem, please try again. But I want to demonstrate what happens if it writes error to this box. So not only I'm going to write, notice that I used inner.html to write to a heading 3, and that's how I got that up here. But now I actually want to write to the text box, and that text box is has ID equal ounces. So I simply say, go get that ID equal ounces, and I want the value to be set to, and here's how I can write directly to the text box, is by using the dot value, getting the text box by ID, and then changing its value. So now when there's an error entered, it did change the heading still, but now it wrote error in here. And now I want to start, now that I see there's an error, I want to retype ounces, but notice it's just appending because that's the function we said to do. So right now what we've had it do is whenever a digit is clicked, right, anything with ID digit, all it's doing is it's getting whatever in that text box and it's adding this current value to it. So it's just appending, right? These are strings, so it's appending it. Same with operator, it's appending a space and then the operator and a space. So what it does is it just goes and gets error in there and appends the 2 to it. So what we want to do is we want to say, no, don't, in the case if there's an error there, then we want it to clear this before it does. So in here I'm going to ask the question before I append it. I'm going to say if, and here's where I'm going to see if that value, right? So I'm going to get that text box and get the value and say if that current value is equal to error, then I want to do something different, right? So if it's equal to error, then what I want the value to be is just what was entered, right? Just whatever was clicked. So I just want it to be the 2. Notice I didn't use the plus equals. I just set it equal to what was clicked. In this case, it would be a 2. Otherwise, so else, then you can do this, where you actually append it, get what's in there and append it. Oops, drop the D. Okay, let's see how this works. So I enter a value that's incorrect, convert, it puts that error in there, gives me a message up here that's a problem, and I go ahead and click on a 5. Look at that. It just put the 5 in the window, and so it didn't start over again. And now I can keep adding values and convert, and it works. Keep adding values, I can convert, get an error, click values. And that's how you recover from an error. There's one thing that you still might want to fix. So it's working fine for us when we get an error and then we go to click and start again. But what if we have it go right, does the conversion, and then we start typing in a new number? Notice it doesn't start typing a new number, it just starts adding it onto the end, appending it to the end, which isn't quite what I want. After I get the right answer, I want it to go back and give me a clear shot here. So I could up here change the value, right? I could say whenever you click on it, whenever you click this, I could reset it to empty, and that actually will work. So I put 23 plus 456 and I convert that. So then it says 400, it does the conversion, puts the message up here and clears this. But now I can't see what I entered. So really what I want to do is I don't want it to clear until I click the button. So this isn't exactly where I want it. So what we can do is create a variable that'll keep track if it was just clicked. All right, if this convert was clicked. And I want to put this variable, I don't want to put it inside any function. I want it to be global. So I want it to be after this function. I go down and there's the very end of that function. And I want it to be before the convert, or outside the convert function as well. So I'm just going to define this global variable and I'm going to call it clicked convert. So now that I've defined this global variable, I'm going to set it to true whenever a user clicks that convert button. And whenever they click that convert button, this function is called. So I want to, inside this function, set clicked convert to true. And I want to do this, I'm going to do this whether there's an error or not, because I really want it to be the same, the result the same. So I'm simply going to say clicked convert equals true. And then I can get rid of this, nope, just like that. So I can just say clicked convert equals true. And then I can come up here and I can say, notice that this will be set to true both when the eval function works and when it does not. So now I can come up here and I can ask the question. Instead of asking the question if it's set to error, I can ask the question if clicked convert is true. Then I want to replace it with this value, otherwise with this value. So let's go ahead and refresh that. We'll put 34 times and convert, we get the error, and sure enough it works when we put in an error. Oops, but it's not working quite how we expected. Look what's happening. Every time I put it, it's replacing it. So every time click convert. So what happened is I set clicked convert to true and it never ever went back to false. So every time it's going back in here. So I have to go back in and I have to make sure that after they clicked a digit, that click convert is set to false, just to reset it back to false. I'm also going to want to do this whenever they click one of the operator buttons. I'm going to say, oh, they didn't just click convert. So we'll set it to false in both of those cases. So true when the convert function is called and false when any of the other buttons are called. So let's go ahead and make an error. It shows up error. Now when I click it, it's working again. Okay, now what happens when I don't make an error? So here's the case where I didn't make an error. It did the conversion. It left the value there. And I click on it. And there we go. So it's working in that case as well. It leaves what the input was clear till I click the next input. Okay, lots of things that you can do to handle that interface the way you want.